Hey there, Dave Paulides, K&M Missing Project, copyrighted edition for our video channel. And this is a Skinwalker Ranch update. And we're going to cover the ranch segment for May 24th, 2022. And all that happened there. If you're looking for something about missing people, it won't be about that. Some of you may still be asking questions about why we are covering the ranch. It's because people have told me that are intertwined with the ranch that my research has something to do with that. And see where it goes. And you will hear more about that at a later time. But I've been interested in it since day one. I'm more interested in it now than ever before. And I do think that with the work that they're doing at that ranch, Skinwalker Ranch, is cutting edge. And I admire Travis and the team that's been put together to work there. They're doing a heck of a job. So let's go through the segment. So Travis said that the goal is to record the best footage of a UAP. Number two, pinpoint the spot in the triangle where the entity is centered. So first let's talk about record the best footage of a UAP. Don't quite understand why the importance in that. Scientifically, I don't think there's a lot of importance. Maybe there is that I don't understand. But as I've told many people in emails over the years, since I've been involved with movie making, or documentaries, I've met some people in the special effects world that could do things that would just blow your mind. And I've met some 12, 14-year-olds that could do things that essentially everything you've ever seen, they could do it and put it on screen and make you believe that it's real. So anybody who's in my world, we don't really believe anything that people send us. And I've sent many things off to optical experts for an analysis, and about 80% come back as fraud or hoaxed. So if you have some cool shot of something, yeah, sure, send it. I'll look at it, but I don't put a lot of credence in it, and unless I know the person personally. So it's kind of my thing on videos and photos. Not a lot there. Now, when you get a group of witnesses together and they all attest to seeing and watching the same thing, well, that's something different. And I think you understand why, because there's credibility in numbers if everyone says they saw the same thing. So we understand the goal of the night's session, and they bring in this group of astronomical people from Salt Lake City, and they have these high-end telescopes. Each one of these telescopes has their own little computer, and it's all based on GPS readings and the star formation that they can pick up in the scope. And each time that they try to categorize and put the placement of the telescope looking into the triangle, they had problems. And they wanted to look through the triangle and understand if the star on the other side of the triangle looked the same or there was some optical distortion. Now, every time they looked through their system for the star that they knew was there, it was removed from their computer. Now, this isn't an online computer. This is a standalone computer that's part of the telescope mechanism. Think about that. Think about this carefully. First of all, I believe 100% it happened. It happened to multiple people simultaneously, all trying to look through this triangle area. So how could this be happening? And what's the angle, we'll call it the entity, is doing? Now, are the entities looking through the mind of the victim or reading the mind of the victim who's operating the computer? And as they're thinking, oh, I'm trying to find the star, boom, they react and they remove the star from the system. Or was it watching and monitoring the computer and the scope? Two different things. If they're thinking or monitoring the mind or thinking or reading the mind, can you imagine how outrageously fast they have to react at such a high technological level to remove that so that the operator doesn't see the star? It's mind-boggling. There's nothing on Earth remotely close to that anything could do. So there's two questions for you. Then they brought in the Ute tribal member, and they talked about observing UFOs, which I don't think is critical, but when I was in Hoopa for almost 2 years, a lot of times the conversation would roll around to, oh, that's kind of a weird thing in the sky or something. And every tribal member I met said that they saw UFOs in the sky, that it was really normal. And the other thing that they would see all the time were military jets chasing UFOs. I heard that many times. So is that something that is happening more on tribal reservations than on normal public lands? I don't know, but it seems like the story comes up more. Or are the Native Americans more willing to talk about it? I'm not sure. So, scope is still looking through the triangle. It's not, none of the scopes are picking up stars on the other side of the triangle because it's not in the database. Objects are removed from the database. They find second stars that they could then go after, and it's removed from the database. So folks, I was sitting here watching this going, is this entity just toying with these guys? Just having it, are they having just fun with them? Saying to ourselves, well, let's see how much we can screw with them. I don't know. It's almost as though the researchers, and this is not an insult to them because they're very smart people, but it's almost as though they're playing kindergarten level checkers and this entity is playing master's level chess. It does. And that would be the comparison. So they get to the point where they launch the rocket. Scope's not working, camera's not working on the ranch that they just installed. Now, I'll tell you some things. When Mr. Bigelow owned the ranch, they had cameras on big poles at different locations around the ranch to try to pick up everything that happened. At one point, the cameras go down and they don't understand. And they have cameras watching cameras because if something happened, they wanted to understand what happened to the other camera. And at one point, this camera goes down. So they switch over and they watch the recording of this camera over here watching this camera over here facing the field. And they watch this camera here, and the cable that goes and comes up out of the ground and hits the pole and follows it up to the camera gets cut. And they can see it being cut, but there's nothing there. There's nothing physically to see that what's doing it. Just one of the millions of things that have happened there over the years. And then the rancher's wife that lived at the ranch She would come home from the store, empty out all of her groceries, put them on the counter, and then put the stuff that needed to be in the refrigerator and the others in the cabinets. Sometimes she went to the grocery store maybe once every 2 weeks, so she had a lot of groceries. She'd then go to the bathroom and come back, and all of the groceries are on the counter again. Says, folks, I still say it's just toying with us. Or is this entity doing its own research on us? How will that woman react if we take all those groceries out and put them on the counter? How will these researchers react if we just take away all of their data from their database and don't let them accumulate anything? So, if the entity can read our minds or read the computers and take out a star, they should be able to take our blood pressure, understand our heart rate, and are they monitoring those things as obstacles are put in front of the researchers? See, the researchers think that they are doing this research. What if they're the ones that are being researched? Just a thought. I'm probably wrong, but you got to look at all angles. Another time, one of the security guys takes a laser and points it up into the triangle. And it almost appears as though the laser splits. Where there's a company called Gentech, GENTEC-E. And they talked about beam splitters are optical components that partially reflect a laser beam. So the initial laser beam is split in two, a reflected beam and a transmitted beam. Beam splitters are also commonly used in interferometry. The most famous example would be the famous Michelin-Morley experiment, which proved that light propagates at the same speed no matter the direction. Some beam splitters are also called beam samplers or optical pickoffs. Because industrial and scientific applications have varied requirements, many different beam splitter designs have been invented over the years. So, it's possible to split a laser. And I know that Travis made a big deal about that, and it probably is a big deal because maybe he hasn't seen it done before. But to see it done in the middle of the sky over a triangle you're researching, yeah. Also, it being bent, we can bend lasers, and we've been doing that for a long time, so that's not that unusual. But to see it bent in the sky, yeah, that would be unusual. Now, they made a comment about the cows being the biosensors for the ranch. And by the way, that was Huck that knocked the tripod. Animals, cows will always be more aware of our surroundings than humans. We know that. Every animal is. That's why we take animals into the woods with us, because they know what's coming way before we do. Now, cows have been mutilated, killed at the ranch. That's not a big deal in the sense that it's happened numerous times. Now, here's a good one for you, folks. Pay attention. Everyone goes to sleep. At 5:13 a.m., Travis hears a big knock on the side of his trailer and a big loud sound, wakes up, yells out to his phone, "What time is it?" They say it's 5:13 a.m. Okay? One of the other researchers has night terrors, wakes up and goes into the control room and observes what appears to be, it almost looks like something exploding in the atmosphere, like a small planet or something. So, the other researcher wakes up at 5:13, goes in and sees this. Travis gets knocked on the side of the trailer at 5:13, feels something odd going on. Both occurred at 5:13. Is that a coincidence? Probably not. Now, long time ago, about 4 years ago, Ben and I were having a conversation. And like I told you, I miss this guy so much because we had some of the best conversations in the world. He was my go-to guy for everything. And Ben said, Dad, do some research on the number 9. I go, what? He goes, I'm going to give you a couple of different links, and I want you to watch them. And he knew how busy I was, and he wouldn't throw garbage at me. And I said, well, if he's saying it. So I ended up watching like 3 hours of videos on the importance of the number 9 and the unique nature of the number 9. So when numbers get thrown at me, I'm always thinking. Now, 5:13 a.m. Take 513. 5 plus 1 plus 3 equals 9. Is that a coincidence? I doubt it. That's your homework assignment. Look up the importance or the unusual nature of the number 9. Google it. So if the entities woke up Travis and the other researcher, what was the purpose and why those two? Why would the entity want the researchers to see this planet exploding? And I'm just saying exploding. It just kind of looked that way, but it probably wasn't exploding, but it looked that way. So why did they want those two? Well, it could be construed that it was pretty obvious that Travis and the other researcher were running the show there at the ranch. But they get him up, I don't care what you say, they got him up to see this. But why? It goes back to, are they studying us? And if they get us up in the middle of the night, are they following our thinking patterns? Are they seeing how we're going to respond in the middle of the night versus with all this rest? What are they studying? So when the ranchers owned Skinwalker, before Mr. Bigelow came along, they had 3 prized bulls. And the rancher and his wife went away for a day. They came back and the bulls were gone. And they came back and they had a cab over camper that was on the ground and it was moving. They said, well, that's odd. So they couldn't find the cows, so they opened the door of the camper and there's 3 2,000-pound bulls inside the camper like sardines. So let's say this, folks. They did not get in there naturally. They did not get in there themselves. So the entity has the ability to move multi-thousand-pound bulls at a whim. That's number 1. The entity can go invisible, so we can't see them. They can alter computers while we're on it. So that means they can alter it at lightning speed. They obviously have the ability to read the mind of the researcher. And they have the ability to inflict injury and death. Death to animals for sure. And there's no doubt they have death to humans. If you think of the injuries that they've imparted on the researchers on the team and others that have visited. Going back to this, I want you to think hard about, are the entities controlling and researching the researchers? Could they be imparting long-term injuries on the researchers? Remember, Travis had radiation burdens, as did others in the past years. Radiation is cumulative injury. Could that be one thing that's going on? And then here's the biggie in my mind. If the entity can alter computers, read your mind, also anticipate what the researcher is going to do, could these entities be at the center of major disappearances? Think about it. Let's just talk about Malaysia Flight 370. They never did find anything wrong with that crew. Stellar pilots. There's a lot of rumors going around about the pilots. None of them were found to be true. They were both stellar guys who just loved to fly. So the idea that they purposely tried to kill all those people, I don't believe it. I've never believed it. And let's think about this. If those entities had the ability to alter or control computers, then why couldn't they alter or control the computers on MH370 and send it into a location they wanted it to go to? I'm just saying, folks. If these entities have the advanced technological ability that they appear to possess, it is so far beyond our ability to comprehend at this point that it's ridiculous. But it's also very scary. You know, you keep poking that bear. You keep poking the bear. You keep poking the bear. Which is what they're doing at Skinwalker Ranch. They're looking for a response. And every time they poke it, they get one. Now, could they poke it sometime and get a devastating response? Maybe. But if they're falling in lines with what the entities want them to do, and the entities are so far beyond our technological ability, why wouldn't they be equally beyond our thinking ability? If they're that far advanced, then they're 1,000 steps ahead of us. They know what we're thinking and anticipating doing. So they're prepared for it. So they can control that setting and they can control the outcome. Does that make sense? Now, I'm not trying to be a Davy Downer. I'm trying to get you, as our village, to think on a much higher plane. And I do believe that if I was going to put together a team, I guarantee Travis would be on the team. And I do think that these other gentlemen are doing a stellar job. The issue is that you need 100 guys with Travis's brain capacity to really work your way up to the point where you even scratch the surface of this. And friends, if we've never met a foe that was this technologically advanced, is that the reason that our Defense Intelligence Agency walked away and stopped researching the ranch? Is that the reason? Or was it a national security risk in such that this entity put them on notice that you better leave and just go about your business because we can do this to you if you keep it up? We'll never know because our government will never release it. But anyhow, there was a lot there. I hope that everyone understands the importance of this show, because I think it is very, very critical. Now, for all of you out there that have taken the time to meet me, I appreciate it. If you're new to this series, I really am grateful you're here. Right below the pinned comment on this video will be all the links to my websites and books and things. You can still watch my 2 documentaries for free on YouTube. And I always put out a couple of news shows every week and 2 missing person shows every week on Wednesdays and Sundays. So please come back, make yourself a subscriber, give me 2 thumbs up, and I'll see you soon. Paulides out.